Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo.
I'm not able to hear you.
Oh, yes.
Speaking.
Oh, sorry. I'm on mute. Sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Hari Om Tat Sat. 1.41. Somebody can share. Anybody can. Thank you. Sankaro narakaiva kula gnanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro hiyesham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. Sankaro narakaiva kula gnanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro hiyesham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. Sankaro narakayaiva kula gnanam kulasya cha patanti pitaro hiyesham lupta pindodaka kriyaha. Word translation. Sankaraha, such unwanted children, narakaya, make for hellish life, eva, certainly, kulagnanam, for those who are killers of the family, kulasya cha, for those who are killers of kulasya, for the family, cha also, patanti, fall down, pitaraha, forefathers, he certainly, esham, of them, lupta, stopped, pinda, of offerings of food, udaka and water, kriyaha, performances. Translation by Divine Gaya Sesi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. Please repeat. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. According to the rules and regulations of fruitive activities, there is a need to offer periodical food and water to the forefathers of the family. This offering is performed by worship of Vishnu because eating the remnants of food offered to Vishnu can deliver one from all kinds of sinful reactions. Sometimes the forefathers may be suffering from various types of sinful reactions, and sometimes some of them cannot even acquiring a gross material body and are forced to remain in subtle bodies or as ghosts. Thus, when remnants of prasadam food are offered to forefathers by descendants, the forefathers are released from ghostly or other kinds of miserable life. Such help rendered to forefathers is a family tradition, and those who are not in devotional life are required to perform such rituals. One who is engaged in the devotional life is not required to perform such actions. Simply by performing devotional service, one can deliver hundreds and thousands of forefathers from all kinds of misery. It is stated in Bhagavatam 11.5.41. Devarshi bhutaptan runam pitrinam na kinkaro nayam runi charajam sarvatmana yassaranam saranyam gatom kundam parihartya kartum. Anyone who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the giver of liberation, giving up all kinds of obligation, and has taken to the path in all seriousness, vows neither duties nor obligation to the demigods, sages, general living entities, family members, humankind, our forefathers. Such obligations are automatically fulfilled by performance of devotion service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We'll try to understand here. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langete Grim Yatkrupa Tamaham Vande Sri Gurum Devatarina Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Iswaram. Pancha Kalpatarubhyasya Krupa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much for joining this class. So we are discussing from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, Observing the Armies, verse number 41. So here, let's see the context. Let's go into from in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, where we have a sequence of steps going on by starting from Dhritarashtra asking questions to Sanjaya, then Sanjaya speaking what's happening in front of, so on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Duryodhana approaching his commander-in-chief, Dronacharya, and then addressing Bhishma and all others, and comparing the armies. So this is practically categorized as, first verse is telling us establishing the Bhagavad Dharma. And also it is giving the glimpse of the material nature in terms of the Dhritarashtra's character, in terms of jealousy, enviousness, differentiating his own family and Pandavas. And then we see from verse number 2 to 9 the leadership positions. Also the authority brings whoever is taking the authority or leadership, they need to be responsible and act accordingly, understand the injunctions of the Shastra for that leadership position, how to act. Otherwise it is going to cause a great havoc whoever is under him, because they are supposed to deliver the living entities. That's what is being indirectly being told, and is also indirectly being told from verse 2 to 9. Diplomacy and unwanted, the way, how to communicate to the other living entities, how to communicate to the elders. Here Duryodhana doesn't know how to communicate. That's unwanted behavior that is also been exhibited there, and is cunning and criticizing behavior. Then verse number 10 to 19 we see, in order for us to gain victory, we must surrender to Shastra and Sadhu and Guru, to Supreme Lord through Sadhu and Shastra and Guru. So that's what is being told, foundation for victory beyond the material coverings. Then we see now we are in the section where it is from all the way, I think 27 onwards. Yeah, before that there is also how Arjuna is empowered by Hanuman, great devotee, and Agnidev, and Lord himself, and Goddess of Fortune. Then verse number 24, 20 to 25, that one, and then we have 20 to 24, and 24 to 27 you see how the mind, senses and intelligence must be is controlled. So that has been explained in that. And then from verse number 27 we see the Arjuna's hit a roadblock. It's a stumbling block because of the absorption on the material nature, absorption on the bodily platform. So this is on the complex battlefield. By seeing his own relatives, he went into this absorption. And Prabhupada explains, we have the gross body, which is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then we have subtle body, mind, intelligence, false ego. And then beyond that we have soul, and beyond that there is a super soul who is guiding the soul. So this is Indriyani Parani Ahur Indriyabhyam Param Manasastu Parabuddha Parasastu Saha. This way there is a sequence, one over the other. Unless the intelligence is sharpened by Shastra and Sadhu and Guru, we will not be able to control the mind. Unless we control the mind, we will not be able to control the senses to sense objects. That's what Dhyayato Vishyampam, this absorption. That's what we see. Arjuna is being caught up in that absorption of his own relatives, forgot about his duty, and is also telling us the how we in the material, how being in this material world, we're all at some point of time we hit a roadblock, whether it's job or family life or a business or whatever, children, in terms of, because they also, when they go, especially when they go to college and schools, maybe little less, but still even at 10th grade onwards, there are different types of roadblock depending on what type of association they take in, and what kind of consciousness they are operating on. So that can hit a big roadblock, because as they go to college, the various types of people, so much racism and so much ragging and so many things goes on. Unless the living entity, unless the person is intelligence is sharpened, unless he's been guided by the Supreme Lord and Shastra and Guru and the right association, and the parents are giving that education and the culture, so it's very difficult to come out of that stumbling block that can cause a great havoc unless we have this background. And it's not a one-day thing, and it also means we may get into a failure, but that is not the end of it. So when we hit that roadblock, we must approach someone who is qualified, we can discuss confidentially to come out of that problem. But the general process given in the Shastra is, it is a constant practice. Suddenly we cannot come out of the problem by our own, unless we have that constant practice of this association and seriously studying the Shastra and guided and under the proper culture of Vedic culture. Then naturally we know how to deal with the problem. Will not be agitated when the problem hits, whether it's an accident or whatever the problem we face in this material world, and we will be very strong in that. So otherwise, minute some car accident or something happen, then we will be completely agitated for a few days. We will not be able to come out of it because of that absorption. And same thing when we fail an exam in a college, or when we don't get proper scores. So depending on what platform they are in, that family and the situation is in, so they might be in a very distressful condition that can lead to, those are all the stumbling blocks. So as we can see, we can relate to this Arjuna's conditioning of the stumbling block, where he is identifying, and here he is giving the reasons, he is giving these doubts and reasons for not doing the duty of, I don't want to fight because of the compassion, I don't want to fight because enjoyment, no enjoyment, everybody will be, my family members will be killed, so what is the use of me fighting in this war? And then he was telling destruction, sinful activity, I am going to incur sinful activity, Bhishma and Drona, they are my teachers, so elders and superiors. And then he was telling destruction of dynasty, and then he was telling the community projects will be stopped. And then further now they're coming back to verse number 41, he is telling that not only community projects are stopped because of the unwanted population, because this is Kali Yuga's problem, even though this is happening in the before Kali Yuga, but in Kali Yuga it's even more, because we can clearly see nobody is following samskara. Who is following the Dasaveda samskara? Kalo Sutra Sambhava, everybody by birth generally, it is not by the what our father or forefathers are in, whether the Brahmana Kshatriya, it is not by birth, it is more in Kali Yuga, it is everybody is in the same category, unless they are being reformed by the samskara. Samskara bhavet dvija. So that impressions in the heart, starting with Garbhadana samskara, then you have the Jatakarana samskara, Namakarana samskara, Chudakarana samskara, this way all the way to Vivaha, and so all these samskaras, every samskara has a worship of Lord Vishnu is the center point, whereby the heart, the consciousness, priest supposed to inform us the Lord Vishnu, how to surrender and what is the process for that each sacrifice. There is explanation, but most of the time they perform like a ritual and they don't explain anything, whether it's Vivaha or Chudakarana. They just finish the job and go. But ideally they are supposed to explain, because it's a natural gradual progress. When they hear more and more, Just like Satyanarayana Vrata, most of the time they explain because that is part of the process. But in other ways, it's not so much part of the process, they don't explain. And then the recipient is not learning anything. He's just finishing and going back and doing the same thing again and again. His consciousness, his heart, his chitta is not really getting, because he's not absorbed while doing that sacrifice. That is also another problem in Kali Yuga. So, but anyway, Kali Yuga, it is mentioned that we should perform the Sankirtana Yagna. Out of all the yagnas for Kali Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is Kalauta Dhari Kirtanas, chanting the holy name of the Lord. So here he is mentioning that now because the community projects are stopped, because of Varna Sankara, people are not following the proper etiquette and not following the process, and then they are having a improper way of having children. Then these children doesn't have the right consciousness, and then obviously they don't care about who's performing these days of anniversary, these penda, Shraddha ceremonies. Very less people, percentage is very less every year, continuously. It's not supposed to be performed. But I myself have seen from my childhood, my grandfather used to perform that every year without any break. So, because this is the process given in the Shastra, it must be performed. So, the same thing is explained here, so even because unwanted population, they don't know what is the culture, what is the process, they are not going to perform. Then the forefathers and fathers, family, all of them, their whole dynasty will go into hellish life. So this is one of the problem he has given. And Shastra is explaining that putrarde kriyate bharya, putrarde pinda vardhanam. So the putra, son is needed, especially marriage means mainly for getting a son. Punnama iti naraka itra iti putra. So you mentioned that the son mainly is needed to deliver the father and forefathers, their whole dynasty, to deliver from their conditioning, from their miserable life, wherever they might be suffering. They might not even have a gross body. They might have a subtle body because of their sinful activity. So that's why it is Shastra is recommending. And Shastra is also telling, Prabhupada is telling in many of the lectures, that for a living entity, whoever is, especially for a human being, there is a 5 kinds of sinful activity, where knowingly, unknowingly, everybody is performing this. While drinking the water, while sweeping, while cooking, while grinding things, while walking in this way, 5 kinds of ways where we are killing the living entities, other than so many other things. These 5 is already being performed. So so that's why there is a Pancha Maha Yagna. It must be performed every day. Pancha Maha Yagna. It is also called Pancha Suna. 5 kinds of sinful activities to counteract. There is in the Shastra it is enjoined that to perform Pancha Maha Yagna. Prabhupada is mentioning, starting with Devi, and then Surya, then Ganesha, then Shiva, and then finally Lord Vishnu. These are the 5 step by step 5 kinds of yagna. Every day it must be performed. And when Narada Muni entered into the Dwaraka, where Lord Krishna married these many queens and established so many palaces, expanded himself into all of these palaces, in all of them. So with each person, each queen is performing different activities. In one place is performing even this Pancha Maha Yagna, one place. Narada Muni was, Prabhupada explained in Krishna book in one of the chapter. So you can see that Krishna is establishing himself that this must be followed so that others will follow. As a leader, one must set an example so that others will follow. In a family, wherever we are as a leader, some kind of leader we are. So we should set that example so that our kids and others who are under our shelter, they will follow this direction. Yad yad acharati sreshta tat divetara jana sayat pramanam krute lokastha dhanuvartate. Otherwise it's very difficult. And that's why this character, the samskara comes from the beginning of the childhood. That's why Prahlad Maharaj is telling, it must be done, process must be given from childhood. But these days parents themselves are telling kids, don't go, why are you taking to Krishna consciousness? You have a long way to go. Nicely enjoy your family life, nicely enjoy. So you don't need to take up now. So this is the Kali Yuga's problem. So they are not understanding and realizing when our senses, our body, our mind, when we hit the roadblock and we get a problem, who's going to solve? Who's going to come to that rescue? Only Lord Krishna can help. But we haven't done anything until that point. Suddenly, magic is not going to happen. So how we behave, how we act, then the reaction will come accordingly. So that's why it is very important to understand how the karma works, as Krishna is explaining in the Bhagavad Gita. So that's why because of this observing the harmonies is like absorption on the material nature. That's why Krishna has to explain the whole 17 chapters of Bhagavad Gita to remove that absorption, fear, enviousness, jealousy, all unwanted things in the heart to be removed from, so that the real enlightenment will happen to Arjuna and all the living entities. So that is the reason. So from here we can see the Pancha Maha Yagna is recommended to counteract those 5 sinful activities which living entity perform. But beyond that, one who is performing especially offering directly to Lord Vishnu, especially people go to Gaya and perform this Shraddha ceremony or Pinda ceremony. And Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally himself went to Gaya to perform this, to set that example. So he personally did the sacrifice, offering a Pinda there, and while going itself he got a fever to basically to bewilder this materialistic people, those who are caste brahmanas and others who are not so much into the devotion service aspect. They are so much on the actional, too much rules and regulation caught up with their just by the birth thing. So to bewilder them, then he came to Gaya and then he offered, and then that fever didn't reduce. Then he told, I should please get me a water of a dust from the water of a Brahmana, which is washed feet of a Brahmana. Then by taking that water, which is washed water of a Brahmana's lotus feet, who is worshipping the Lord, so then his fever got reduced. Then he went and performed his sacrifice. There he met Ishvara Puri, his spiritual master. That is one point why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming to Gaya, other than offering sacrifices, offering this for his father. Then he met Sri Ishvara Puri. Then he personally he told, this is the main idea, more than visiting and taking a bath in Brahmate, so many places he visits and take bath. My whole travel, my birth, my everything, my family, everything got purified by just simply seeing you, Sri Ishwar Puri. Both ways, both were conversing like that by seeing each other. They were telling like this. And then Ishwar Puri, immediately Lord started cooking, and then Ishwar Puri walked in at the time. Lord personally cooked and told him to accept the offering, whatever he's cooking. Then he personally fed and he put sandalwood paste to Ishwara Puri, and then he fanned him. So he performed whatever way possible, setting an example how to serve Vaishnavas. Serving the Vaishnavas and pleasing the devotees of the Lord is more important than directly serving the Lord, directly trying to please the Lord. That way it solves. And we can see that example also from Narada Muni. People think that how can you offer food and then your sinful activity is removed, and how can somebody who is in the hellish life can be delivered? And then this example is given in Narada Muni, how by simply taking, he was the son of a Sudrani, he didn't have any great knowledge or great culture or anything. So only his mother was there, father was not there, he didn't study much. And then he simply served these Bhakti Vedantis during the Chaturmasa period. Uchchista lepan anumojito dvijay sakrit dasma munjasta apasta kilbishaihi. All the sinful activities, kilbishai, everything got removed by simply serving, by taking permission from them, serving them submissively, and asking questions, and with rapt attention, hearing from them every day, and then taking their remnants of Maha Prasad. Mahaprasad is whatever is offered Lord, and then once that is tasted by these great devotees, and then by taking their Maha. So Narada Muni was immediately, he got initiated, and then before he was actually, he has a little bit sporting nature before the initiation, but still by seeing his the seriousness and enthusiasm, then they initiated him. Then immediately he was right away became gentle and sober, very much serious, enthusiastically serving them every day and hearing from him. So and followed exactly instruction whatever they are telling. So and then he was progressing advanced very quickly, and then by the nature, by the divine arrangement, obviously his mother passed away because of snake bite. Then further he alone was there. That was a roadblock all the way from beginning of his birth, but he didn't consider that as a roadblock. He rather took everything as positive because of the association of the Bhakti Vedantas, because of the hearing from them, because of their service, serving them. So then his culture, his samskara, his chitta, his mind, his senses, everything got transformed. So that's why, so more than this offering, when we offer this Mahaprasad, more than performing this Pancha Maha Yagna, by performing this Sankirtana Yagna, especially for Kali Yuga, chanting the holy name of the Lord, and especially hearing and serving the great Vaishnavas, great devotees of the Lord, will be able to get delivered from this. Not only us, thousands of forefathers and great grandfathers, everybody can be delivered. And Prahlad Maharaj's case also, we see that in those purports Prabhupada is explaining. 14 generation up and down, both will be delivered by simply one person, one living entity in the family becoming a devotee of Vaishnava, performing devotion service without any other motives. So this is the benefit. So that's why we should take up this process, understand, consider these benefits. We're not losing anything. We don't need to give up anything. We just simply need to take Mahaprasad. By simply prasadam itself, that is the main thing. When Prabhupada came here, we see that transformation happened by his love and by his prasadam, more than the philosophy. Yes, some were inclined with philosophy, but more people were transformed by his love and affection and compassion, and by his prasadam, because of pure devotee cooking and giving that prasadam, serving so much till the neck, and more he allowed them to take. So automatically they got the higher taste of the prasadam. They automatically gave up whatever tendencies they got, everything they got. They were not going anywhere to watch things. They were not eating anything outside. In this way, naturally, we will come to that. But only when we have the association, when we hear from the association of devotees, then only it can happen. So we may come to some failures during the process. Sometimes we may stuck up, we may stop chanting, but that doesn't mean we should go back to our previous life. Again, if we start and associate with devotees, then everything will be set. Krishna will take care. Sri Prabhupada will take care, because he is giving that assurance, and he is the most merciful than the Lord. That is the spiritual master business, because they are carrying the Lord Nityananda Prabhu's mercy. So they will be able to deliver the living entities who are approaching them. But we will need that sincerity and enthusiasm to follow the process. Otherwise, they cannot help. So with that, we see that example from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaur Sundar itself, by offering these pinda, by setting the example, and by also serving, how to serve the spiritual master menially, personally serving, not through others, directly personally serving, trying to, as much as possible, if we get opportunity, we should try to serve. There are many devotees, they will serve. So it is individual devotion service, everything is personal and individual. We should try to serve as much as possible within our capacity, within our time, so if we can. So with that, I will stop here. Any questions, any comments, any realizations on this verse or in the chapter?
Hey Krishna, anybody would like to put your reflections or any questions, comments? I see also Amadanta Prabhu is also here. Amadanta Prabhu, would you like to add something? Anybody has
Yeah, it is mentioned.
It's always good.
Yeah, by Supreme Lord is mentioning that Matchitta Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Katayantas Chamamutyam Tushyanchitara Manchita. So by discussing, conversing with each other about realizations of this devotion service. So don't be afraid. Whatever you have, you can share different points of view, different angles of vision. So
One clarification. Mentioned that it's 14. I think it's Prahlad is 21 generation or 14 generation. But
most of the places it is mentioned 14 generations. One place I also read 21 generation, but even today while reading I saw when Prabhupada's purport, he said 14 generation up and down. So you can add that up as 14 plus 14, 28 also. And then in this purport, I think we see thousands of generations. He didn't even stop there at 14. So, but Shastra generally, most of the places we find the references of 14 generations. So,
I think Bhagavatam, I think it's 21. I don't know. I need to see. That's what is my understanding that Lord Narasimhadev is speaking to Prahlad Maharaj.
yeah.
21 generations would be.
Yeah, in that same canto, same chapter only, I just read today in the Prabhupada's purport mentioning 14 generation up and down.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for wonderful class. Just wanted to highlight everybody, maybe my starting of ISKCON is like starting with the prasadam only. It really that Jagannathji was attracting me so much, and I was not knowing anything about ISKCON, what is this, just going there, wonderful prasad, and then that kirtan, Shaya and kirtan was there. So prasadam really purifies us, like it really works. So for Narad Muni it works, so maybe for everyone starting ISKCON is the prasadam. So Prabhupada really made very nice provision to enter the ISKCON. I just wanted to share that.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Anybody else? Anything? Okay, I think no other questions. We can stop here. Yeah,
Sachimata is asking something.
go ahead, Mataji.
No, Prabhuji, my question was something different. Actually, you just said something. You said about serving your spiritual master, so it was regarding that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Especially since the time Gopal Krishna Maharaj, like he didn't visit this year, and
Yeah.
he was in the hospital. So, and I'm feeling more and more that over all these years, like I haven't served him enough. Yes, I'm following his instructions, but like when he was in the hospital, there was a fear of like losing him,
Yeah,
and I feel like I should do more, but he's at such a distance, like what to do besides following his instructions. I'm just like feeling this, like that I want to do more, but I'm helpless, like from such a distance, I want to serve him more.
yeah. General consideration is the spiritual master may not be giving personal instructions to everyone. Even Srila Prabhupada also, many couldn't get his personal association and get instructions even after getting personal association also. So mainly from the lectures, we should take general instruction, whatever Guru is giving through it could be through emails, through the letters, through the lectures, whatever instructions coming up, even though it may not be addressing directly to us, so we should take that as instructions. And the general instructions, as Prabhupada is saying, so the way we can please, we should follow the process and we should try to distribute and preach whatever we can, so because that is the advancement comes from the taking responsibility. Whatever that doesn't mean immediately you start neglecting your family and then going out and doing so many things, that is not appropriate. So that balance must be there to balance the family life and try to serve, take out some time and then try to either do physical service at the temple, try to distribute, try whatever way, because each individual is different, different inclinations. To our capacity, we can try to do that. And when spiritual master is not well or anything, if you want to do, then that's always process is already there. You can offer lamp on behalf of your spiritual master. You can offer tulsi pradakshina. You can do 4 rounds. So that can be offered on behalf of your spiritual master. So that is a great benefit that can be done anytime actually, because we want our spiritual masters to fulfill their spiritual master instructions, Srila Prabhupada instructions. So this is giving. So we are just doing our part, and this is given. These instructions are given by our acharyas and spiritual masters. So in this way. So any other things you have? Any other questions? Is your question answered, or any other further doubts?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
And more you hear from Srila Prabhupada, more you hear from Srila Prabhupada and your spiritual master. Specifically, this is the order of the sequence. Shastra is telling, first you chant. Other than chanting, then you hear. The timing should be divided in such a way that chanting is the first priority. Taking care of the family, kids, chanting, then comes to hearing. Then your service, worshipping, other things comes. If you have time, then you can do service and distribution. But if you without chanting and hearing, then the other things may not be so much. It doesn't may not help so much in our progress in cultivating our own devotion creeper. So that's why, because we are following the Bhagavat Vidhi, which is prime focus is Sravanam and Kirtanam. Panchratri Vidhi is the Archana and other limbs of the Bhakti. We do that because to help those first 2 things to be absorbed more in the chanting and hearing, we do definitely deity worship so that we become personal, we touch the Lord, we massage the Lord, we bathe the Lord, all those things are there. But main point acharyas are giving is the Bhagavat Vidhi, Sravanam and Kirtanam. So, yeah.
So Prabhuji, is it necessary, like we are having these 2 classes, and I don't listen to Maharaj's lecture every day, but like a few times, but maybe like once or twice a week. Is that fine, or should we listen to Maharaj and Prabhupada every day? Like chanting, Prabhupada chanting definitely.
It can be done. I'll tell you, it can be done. We may feel like we don't have time because we are already engaged in morning and evening. While we are doing other things, cooking or brushing, whatever we may do.
Yeah, Prabhupada's chanting is always going on.
No, even there is a Prabhupada audio machine. Recently we got it, right? And it is available.
Yeah, I always listen to that, Prabhupada.
Yeah, that is listening. Yeah, that is listening from Prabhupada directly. And so you can listen to that. That will help. Even 10 minutes. If you cannot get every day, that's fine. At least once a week. Idea is, especially whoever is initiated, they must supposed to hear at least once a week from their spiritual master. Otherwise, we are jeopardizing what we have taken, because we must hear what he is trying to tell us. We have surrendered, then we must know what he is trying to tell us to change, trying to implement, trying to put into practice. Only if we hear, then we know what is telling us, what is trying to tell us to change. If we don't hear, then there is no other way. And even when we have problem, first thing we have to approach is also, if it is possible through the devotees, we should write to a spiritual master. And spiritual master, you can write, even though you may not reply for everything. You can write, not for every material problem. Material problem you should discuss with the sangha of devotees. But the more spiritual related, you must write. Prabhupada was encouraging that very much. Prabhupada was addressing every letter as much as possible. So this is the way, because that is what the link of a spiritual master, it's heart to heart, and they want to be personal. They don't want anybody else in the middle. So this is the Guru's, Guru Tattva comes under this. All this process is given by Srila Prabhupada. So that will help us.
Yes, Prabhuji, I agree with that because I used to email my Maharaj a lot, and he acknowledged at one time. He said, "I've been reading all your emails. I don't reply, but I read everything. I cannot reply to everything, but he just gets the message.
Yeah.
He does, like so, um, one more thing, Prabhuji, this is something different. I could not. I need somebody to send me the Bhagavatam link because I could not log in this. I could not log in this morning. It was asking for the meeting ID and the password. I did not have the password.
Yeah,
I've never had this problem. I don't know why.
Yeah, because there was a setting. Yeah, Simeso Prabhu will post it. Zoom had a problem. Zoom had a setting change, so that's why they had to put the password. But I think that will be posted again, so you will get that. Just watch in Japatan group. I think our Amritanand Prabhu, I think you had a question. I think.
Thank you.
I think I was on the promotion.
Sure.
I'd just like to share, what Radhanath Maharaj, my Guru Maharaj, had mentioned about association with the spiritual master.
Please.
So there were two examples. It's, when we started ICNJ,
Yes.
and then I had a guitar in the house, and then I used to do Maha mantra. I learned how to play the guitar a little bit here and there. So then, a very dear God brother told me that no, you should not play. It is a Western instrument, and rock and roll, and we are doing spiritual. So I was a little confused. So I said, rather than make any disturbance, keep the guitar aside. So, and at the same time, there's the principle of Yukta Vairagya,
Yeah.
where everything and anything can be used in service of Krishna. So I wrote a letter to Radhanath Swami, and after 1.5 years or so, I got a reply, and that came via Yagna Prabhu from New York.
Yeah.
And then he told me, yes, Maha got the letter, but he travels so much, there's such a big reaching, but it was really not an issue, so to say. And he said, of course, you can play the guitar, but there are certain programs like the Mangal Arati and other, though Mangal Arati also is composed by George Harrison using all Western instruments and, during Gaura Arati and all that.
Yeah.
But for your other programs and whatever there's absolutely no problem, the same Yukta Vairagya principle. Then when Maharaj comes here to the New York area, you get to meet him once or twice, and I asked Maharaj, we had just started this center and we didn't have many volunteers, and everyone would run for association of Maharaj. Then who's going to do the cooking and cleaning up and all these other things?
Yeah.
So I asked Maharaj. So what Maharaj said is a very important aspect. He's saying there's Bapu, which is important, and there is Vani, which is the instruction.
Yeah.
And Vani is more important than Bapu because Vani lasts.
Yeah.
Vani will go beyond the physical lifetime. So Guru may leave the body, the disciple may leave the body, but the Vani remains. So association with the Vani is more, how do you say, listening to instruction, what
Yes.
Krishna and Prabhu was saying.
Yes.
So that is the thing, of course, to do personal instruction. You may want to serve him, cook for him, have him stay in your house and clean his clothes and all. And at least what Radhanath Maharaj said is, you just, whatever is the instruction. And then the other thing was of listening to the instruction. Not necessarily you'll get specific instruction for you, but there are so many instructions. So when you listen, things automatically fall in place. And the second example which I'll give you is there was Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu.
Yep.
And his duty was to drive Maharaj. So Maharaj used to go from New York to West Virginia, New Vrindavan, and used to drive, 8-10 hours. And Maharaj had one little van. So 2-3 devotees, Radha Vallabh and all would go. So I told Prabhu, because I was self-employed, I said, Prabhu, I can make my time. Okay, so I can come. I would like to drive Maharaj. I would like to be Maharaj's driver.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your personal experiences.
Yeah.
It helps.
Wonderful to hear from the different perceptions. That's very true. That that I think Motherji, I think it's good answered, right? All your questions. I mean.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and about making time, yes, definitely. I don't know how we are making time for both the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know how it even happened. It's amazing because when everybody used to say read one shloka of Bhagavatam, it used to be like, how to make time for it, and now we are attending these classes. It's so amazing how everything works,
And also chanting, and also finishing
yeah.
around, right?
Yeah.
It's all happening,
Yeah.
yes.
It's all happening, yes.
Yes.
It's amazing.
That's the
One more
power
thing,
of-
Prabhuji, Sameshwar Prabhu, one more thing,
Please.
this
Yeah.
regarding, no, I thought I lost the chat.
Go ahead.
So regarding, I'm just giving Guru Maharaj, because this is, I feel like, is me serving my Guru Maharaj, is that Maharaj came to go, since Purushottam month is going on and we keep talking about selling books, the Bhagavatam, Maharaj at Govardhan Prabhuji's house a long time back, he came and he said, put the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita in the libraries. And I remember at that time, because I already had the Bhagavatam, I sponsored one Bhagavatam and I put it in the Edison library, which is close to my house. So if anybody wants to go ahead and do that, if they have personal ones and if they want to sponsor it, this was Gopal Krishna Maharaj, he requested at that time. This was years back, I remember. And I really liked the idea.
Yes.
And so I went ahead and did that. So.
Very wonderful.
Mataji,
Yeah.
I've seen those Bhagavatams, and my friend, her name is Radhika, and she looks at those books and she thinks, I want to read about this Hinduism, I want to go deeper into my spirituality. So really,
Wow.
Mataji,
So,
because of your contribution, my friends are getting connected to Krishna. I'm so grateful to you.
No, not to me, to Guru Maharaj, because he's the
That's
one
so
who suggested
wonderful.
it.
Right.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was you.
Yeah, I put it, but I have to go to the central library, and then they ask you where you want to put it. So I said I want it in the Inman, the Grove Avenue library. So, but it was just the Bhagavatam, because this is just a suggestion, because
It's amazing.
if you cannot, so if somebody wants to go ahead and do that. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
Mataji. Everybody can please. I mean, that's a wonderful suggestion. I think we also used to do that, putting the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the library. Many people get benefited.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a big Indian community.
Yes.
Yeah. This.
Especially these upcoming children, and many children are